if you work in a cozy organization where everybody is friends and people like each other and they go lunching together and everybody's happy to work there, one big family, we call that a clan organization, clan culture. And then the organization, the board, is introducing an aggressive sales strategy. We've seen that. We worked for customers like that, where suddenly there changed something in the markets and they are pushed towards a more aggressive sales strategy. Then we know upfront that it will not work. In a clan culture, introducing a very aggressive sales strategy is just not working. And there you have really a causal link between the culture and the failure of introducing a new strategy.
Welcome to Table Stakes, where we dive deep into the conversations that matter most in customer experience. I'm Michel Stevens, Course Director at CXM Academy, and I'm joined today by Anouk Devriese, Chief Strategy Officer at Trion, who spent years developing a measurement system that doesn't just report on program success, but they can actually predict it. Now, here's a scenario that probably sounds familiar to our listeners. You're 3 months into a major transformation program. Your dashboard is green. Your metrics are trending up. Your stakeholders are happy. And then everything falls apart. The program stalls, the adoption drops, results disappear. You're left wondering, how did we miss this? Why didn't our metrics warn us this was coming? And that's why we have this conversation today, because you were looking in the rearview mirror when you needed to be looking through the windshield. So, Anouk, welcome to Table Stakes.
Hi, Michel. Thanks for having me here.
Great. No, I am very eager to get started because you do some very interesting things. But before we head down that rabbit hole, tell us a little bit about your journey, because you've had a front row seat to what makes programs succeed or fail.
Yes, indeed. I started my professional career in the early 2000s when digitalization was high on the agenda for all kinds of administrative procedures, as you probably know as well. So I worked for years as a process engineer, translating paper processes into digital ones. Gradually took up different roles from business analyst over project manager to sponsor of large digital transformations and also business transformation programs. And today, indeed, I'm currently working as a Chief Strategy Officer at Trion.
Great. Now, Anouk, let's start with the foundation first. Can you explain the framework you've developed for predicting project success based on interpersonal interactions in a way that I will understand it?
That's I don't know, of course, if I can do that, but of course I can explain how it works. First of all, it's not all about interpersonal interaction. The core model has 10 drivers. With 5 what we call more hard drivers based on hard metrics, and 5 drivers based on soft metrics.
Okay, and how does that work? What does that program do? What do the metrics actually predict or try to?
Well, what we look at I will focus on the soft side because the hard side everybody knows what kind of metrics you look at for program and project management, I suppose. But on the soft side, we talk about metrics on psychological safety. On group interdependence, motivation, network strength, and also about cultural health. So that are the drivers where we talk about, and everything goes back on the way people trust are safe in the organization, work together, because we know that collaboration is very important in the success of projects and programs. And under trust, there are a lot of different elements that make that people find this trust in an organization, yes or no.
Right. And so with this, how do you measure them? Because it seems like it sounds like very hard to measure, right? How do you do that?
Well, we measure them. We use we do not measure them per purpose on purpose. We use metadata that is already measured or recorded in an organization. We look, for example, to metadata that is generated by collaboration tools or email programs, Teams, for example, as without naming specific organizations, and they generate already a lot of metadata in the background, and we use that metadata to create metrics to have an insight on this kind of stuff.
Right. So it's the metadata that is linked to what people do that informs your metrics, and that informs then you the framework of metrics that
Yeah,
predict program success. That
yes,
is that it?
that's indeed how it works.
Right. Perfect. Now, what's the difference between metrics that reports success and metrics that predict success? Can you give us some concrete examples?
Well, for me, in my opinion, there is not really a difference between metrics that report success and metrics that predict success. It are the same metrics, but it's more about the time scale. The closer you come to today, the more it's reporting, and the further away, the more it's predicting. And of course, for example, look at if we look a heart metric, because you can also predict heart metrics, of course. Everybody knows being in a steerco where you look at the budgets and you see budget overrun. And then you say, oh, okay. So you see that as an early warning, but that's more reporting because you report the budget overrun, and it's at that moment that you say, oh, okay, so this is happening. But the question we ask is, can you predict budget overrun at the beginning of a 4-year project, or can you predict that halfway? And what kind of data, what kind of signals should you see and measure and take into account to predict that you will have a budget overrun without knowing it already?
Right, but that is for me that is fascinating because if you can identify that early on, you can actually already take corrective measures, even if you're not that far into the project already.
Yes, that's the idea. And that's also the idea for soft metrics, because we, as you said in the introduction, we all know that successful projects where everything is green on the hard sides, and we look in the circle and we say, okay, this will be a fantastic project, that even then it can fail at implementation. And we know that there are soft measures. We call that change management, and there's that it's something that comes up already for like more than 10 years for now. The importance of change management. That's of course everything to do with that soft metrics. And you like to know upfront if things will go wrong, and with what kind of metric it will go wrong. You do not want to wait to see the failure to realize that you had something wrong in the change management.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what if I'm a program manager today? And obviously, I don't know what I don't know. So, I will be assuming that I have a program that has no blind spots, right? I'm measuring the right things. I'm measuring if my milestones are on time. I'm measuring that my budget is on schedule. But how do I recognize that my measurement system has blind spots? How do I know that?
If reality, the evolution you predict and the reality is not going in the same way without taking actions. Of course, if you do actions and your metrics change, then probably that has something to do with with the actions you took. But if that's not the case and it changed, then you know that you have some blind spots in your measurements.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I get that. Hey, but let's go into the mechanics, Anouk. How do you actually build a measurement system that predicts rather than reports? What does predictive measurement look like in practice? What can I expect?
So what we do is, of course, we have tons of data, and we look for patterns that can predict the success. So we look for we have the 10 drivers. We have like 60 metrics behind, and for every metric, we try to see what's the pattern to predict how it will evaluate in the future and what kind of elements have impact on this on the evolution. And of course, that is, yeah, you have to train the system with successful or failures, both, and a lot of data. And so we try to see the patterns with big data techniques. We are doing that.
Okay, so let's say that I have a team, you have a team, and they have to work together on a project that the system will at some point detect if something is changing in the interactions between our teams. That's what the system does. It looks at do they still interact in a way that will actually lead to success. Is that as
Well,
simple? And I'm using air quotes now, but is it
yeah,
as simple as that, or?
it's even more simple in the sense that in from our experience we know already a few elements where we look at before we start the project to see if it will be successful, yes or no. For example, we know that certain ways of being organized are more successful for one type of a project than for other types. To make it clear, you do not go to war with a flat organization. So you need a boss. You do not do innovation if you are working in a hierarchy with 10 layers. I think you feel that how you call that, a gut feeling, that it's working like that, and a lot of organizations are organized in the way that it's best for the product or the service that they deliver. But so if you try to do projects that are not in nature with the way you are organized, and we know upfront that there is a bigger chance of failure than in other ways. Yeah, that's one example, and that are things that you can measure upfront and that have a real impact on success.
How do you distinguish between, or how do you make distinction between meaningful early signals and random fluctuations? What makes a metric truly predictive, actually?
Hmm. Well, on the metric level, we have already a lot of evidence. For example, a lot of call centers already work with tone of voice and messages to
Mhm.
predict churn. So tone, you can use the same mechanics of measuring tone of voice, for example, in messages that people send to each other working in the same. You look for all messages with the name of the project in it, and then you just have the tone of voice, so you don't have to know what is really in the message, but you just make an analysis of the tone of voice. And then it's not churn, but it's a kind of churn. People that are leaving mentally the project or are just very passionate about the project. And so this is a very good prediction of how successful a project will be. If everybody is talking, then it's the same as a customer in a call center and the churn prediction. And so that are statistical models that exist today. It's nothing magic.
No, well, it's nothing magic to you, but it certainly sounds like magic to me at some point. But what I wanted to ask you as well is how do you measure interpersonal interactions in a way that it's actually useful and not surveillance, that it doesn't feel like Big Brother is watching me, a kind of idea.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. One that is close to my ethics as well. We are not interested in the individual. I think that's the basis. We are interested in the way teams collaborate within the team or between teams. So we look at how many interaction is between how many persons, or is it all like in the one team, everybody is talking to one person and that one person is talking to one person of another team and then it's dispersed again, or is everybody talking from one team to another in whatever way and how often? Or do people not talk? You see sometimes in organizations with very deep expertise that experts are not talking to each other at all. So yes, and that you can measure just by looking to metadata of the email conversations, the chats applications that are used are already very interesting on that one.
So what I'm thinking of, and this is something that has to do with my mathematics background, is what's the link between engagement metrics and project success? Is it causal or is it correlational? I mean, that is for me a profound question.
So we all know that it's not always easy to find out. Sometimes we think it's causal, and then it shows up that it's correlational. But from our experience of many years, we know that there are a few or even more metrics that really give a causal relationship. I can give a very clear example that will be very clear to you immediately. If you work in a cozy organization where everybody is friends and people like each other and they go lunching together and everybody's happy to work there, one big family, we call that a clan organization, clan culture. And then the organization, the board, is introducing an aggressive sales strategy. We've seen that. We worked for customers like that, where suddenly there changed something in the markets and they are pushed towards a more aggressive sales strategy. Then we know upfront that it will not work. In a clan culture, introducing a very aggressive sales strategy is just not working. And there you have really a causal link between the culture and the failure of introducing a new strategy.
Yeah,
I
makes
think
total sense.
you have gut feeling why that's it, but you can show that with metrics how that works.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But I have another question for you, Anouk. I'm sorry, I'm rapid firing now, right? My
No,
brain is on fire. How do you design a measurement system that captures that predictive data? Or what kind of infrastructure or processes do you need to allow that to happen actually?
well, as I said, most of metadata is already collected today, but it's not used. So it's metadata that is there, and that large firms that deliver the software and the applications, they see it. What we see more and more is that they also developing environments where you can use also within the organization that kind of metadata. And then we talk really about big data. So you have, yeah, it's in yeah, most of the time it's done in the cloud, because you need a lot of power to do that. And then we use not even very advanced techniques like machine learning and other kinds of what we call today AI, but it's often not really AI. It has more to do with statistics and pattern recognition, but on a massive amount of data.
Right.
That's what's happening in behind.
That's cool. That's so interesting. But let's get practical for a second. Eh, what do you do when your metrics show a low engagement? How do you intervene then? What do you do?
Well, there is no magic. Knowing is the first step, and I think that's the real gain, because today if I've been in XComs a lot of years on myself, and I've seen it happening a lot of time. You have gut feeling. You have your own colored network that gives you bits, and then you say, okay, we need change management, so we will launch questionnaires, and there you have the big mouths shouting. And you feel that you miss the unserved audience and the silent majority. En nu ben ik mijn draad kwijt.
Dat is oké, dat is oké. Zal ik de vraag opnieuw stellen?
Ja,
Alright.
of misschien
Goed.
halverwege, ik weet niet of dat kan.
Nee, ja, alles kan. Het is gelukkig dat goed. Ik
Ja.
kan ze opnieuw stellen.
Ja.
Alright, so let's get practical for a second here, Anouk. What do you do when your metrics show low engagement? How do you intervene from there now? What do you do?
Well, there is no magic. It's hard working, and I think the most important part is really knowing what is happening. I've been in executive committees myself for many years, and I've seen it happening often. You launch for example, a merger or another very large ERP implementation, and that kind of project. You are working in a large organization, so you do not have a real connection with the floor. You have, of course, your own colored network giving you some bits and bytes. You launch a questionnaire often every month, every 14 days, and then every time the same persons are shouting, "Oh, I'm not agreeing with this," and you focus, you think, okay, this is what the organization thinks, but and then you do actions, and this action fail. And that's just because you do not listen to the silent majority. And so the first point of acting is listening to this silent majority in your organization, really understanding what's their problem and what they need, and doing very specific actions on what they need. And often that's why we are interested on the teams and department level. Often what you see is that what works for one team is not necessarily working for another team, because culture is different, or the way it's organized is different, or the interaction is different, or the tone of voice is different. And having more insights by the metrics on the soft drivers, on what is specific for that team, gives you the insights and how to act for specific teams, and you are able to do actions very specialized, specific on a certain department or a certain team. And it's hard work. It's still hard work, but at least you have a better idea of what you are doing and why you are doing it.
Yeah, no, that's crystal clear. One other question that I've been wondering, and I wanted to ask you, is how do you get buy-in from stakeholders who are used to traditional project metrics like timelines and budgets and deliverables? How do you buy in? How do you make them buy into your model, actually?
Well, what I've seen, and I've been in the same place, is that often they know that the hard metrics they are looking at are not telling the whole story. And they know that they miss something, and they try to solve that problem, to go talking, or to be more out, to be on the coffee machine, to listen, but they still know that they only hear the people that dare talk to them. You have a lot of people who don't dare talking to direction or the CEO, for example, and so they know they are biased. And so often they are, if you talk about factualization of this kind of gut feeling, in many boards of directors, they are very happy to hear that there are possibilities to get this factualization.
Yeah. Hey, Anouk, we're coming to the end of our time together. I'm really disappointed by that, but it is what it is. But before we wrap up, I want you to speak directly to that CX professional who's listening to this and feeling frustrated because they keep getting surprised by program failures. They're tired of being reactive, tired of finding out about problems when it's too late to fix them. What would you want them to know?
Well, I think what I just said, that there are ways to factualize their gut feeling. I think that's important. It is possible to hear the silent majority and support them in a meaningful way with change, whatever that change might be. And at Trion, we combine our core expertise in portfolio and program management with these new technologies, working together with partners and customers to help people in a more focused way with the organizational change. And I think that's really the message that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I hope that a lot of people hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much, Anouk, for sharing your insights there.
With pleasure.
And thank you for listening to Table Stakes. If this conversation has sparked something in you, we'd love to hear about it. And until next time, remember, the future belongs to those who can see it coming.